Hello, everybody. It's me, Man Alone, and I am just a man alone here to talk to you. This is a very special episode of Man Alone. Remember that on like TGI Friday? This is a very special episode. We're going to talk about something very important. So gather the whole family around because today we're going to do something that's long overdue. Some of you are going to hate this video. Some of you are going to jump for joy that someone is finally speaking truth to power. And not only truth to power, but a certain kind of power, which is the power of magic. That's right. Today we are going behind the magic in Dragonbane. You may think you know, but you have no idea. Just me saying that, I think, will lead to my video being demonetized. Say goodbye, 26 cents. We're going to talk about magic in Dragonbane. I've been hesitating talking about this. It is of great shame to me. I'm ready to come clean. Let me talk to you about what I need to come clean about. I hate magic in RPGs. I don't hate the idea of magic. I just hate how magic is used. Part of this is due to a long, deeply rooted bias that comes from me being used to video game RPG magic from 1989 onward, okay? Playing Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy, in which you have MP, magic points. You learn new spells when you level up. You can cast those spells as long as you have the MP. And if you run out of MP, you can't cast a spell anymore unless you use an item or you rest to recover it. That system always seemed very clean to me. I'm not going to say what some people I've seen say, which is more realistic, because we're talking about like throwing ice chandeliers out of your fingers at people. None of it's realistic, but it's easy. It's intuitive. It makes sense. And then in tabletop RPGs, we have a different story. We have, I guess, what would be called the Vancian model. Some people call it. Jack Vance, who was a fantasy author, and created this idea of sort of preparing spells. It was ported into D&D from very early on. And the idea of it is you're about to go into battle as a mage, and you say, oh boy, let's see, who am I going to face, right? Am I going to face a wizard? Am I going to face an orc? Am I going to face another knight? I better prepare certain spells for them. Each of them are going to have different challenges, and so I better get one that I shoot a bolt of lightning at, and another who I rain fire down from the heavens. Now, we all know that this is not really how battles work, especially anymore in TTRPGs. You're having battles against eight or nine battles a session. Well, no, that's not true. Maybe having 2 or 3 battles a session, but you're battling total 8, maybe 8 foes, a boss, and so you're just using magic, and yet in most games, we're stuck with this system where you have to learn, you have to study the spell, and you have to prepare it, and you have to have it in your head, and or there's games where you use scrolls as magic, and they're almost like consumable items, which I think like takes the fun out of it for some reason completely. I feel like that takes the fun out of it. It almost feels like it's the same level of excitement like when you're playing a video game and you get an offensive item for the first time, like you picked up a bomb and you're like, when am I ever going to use this, right? Like think about a game like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. You're flying around, you've got these amazing dual wield swords, and all of a sudden you're going to pause the game, go into the menu, select firebomb, and then throw that for 100 HP hit or something. It's just not exciting, and that's how I feel about these scroll spell casting. And then you do have some games that use a point system, magic points, whatever it is. All right, so let's talk about Dragonbane now. The reason I haven't talked about this is multivariate. The first reason is because it's complicated. I haven't fully learned it yet. The second reason is because I hate Magic in TTRPGs and I avoid them. And I suck at dealing with them as a DM, and I never choose them as a player. And it's weird. I actually have been thinking about this all day as I was considering this video of why I've never chosen to be a mage. There's something about choosing a mage. It doesn't feel like cheating. It feels embarrassing to me. Maybe not embarrassing. Like, I feel like you have this character selection, right? And you have these options when you're picking through characters, and you're like, okay, do you want to pick somebody who they can rain down fire from the heavens? They can like unmake somebody, dematerialize them. They can shoot electricity through 6 people in chain lightning. Or do you want to play banjo? Or like, do you want to hold a stick? And for some reason, I don't know if it's because I'm like blue collar, but I'm like, I'm going to pick this. I'm going to pick the rogue. I'm going to pick the scout. I'm going to pick the warrior, whatever it is, because it's like, it just seems too overpowered, I guess. And weirdly though, in Dragonbane, it's not overpowered, and yet it's somehow even worse. So let me just set the record straight here. I think it's well documented now that I really love this system. And I'll get this magic down. Part of this is me being a hater because it's just complicated for me and I can't quite stick it in my head. But I do also think this could be better. I don't understand why it is so complicated. And I feel as though it has so many pieces to it that I have a hard time keeping it in my head. And those of you who don't feel this way, and I know that there are some of you on the Dragonbane Discord who really will not like this opinion. I think in some ways, if you've been playing TTRPGs for a long time, I think you have a form of Stockholm Syndrome about spellcasting. Because anytime somebody mentions that casting spells is complicated, people are very quick to jump to defense of that. But you have to imagine that somebody is picking up this game for the first time. What if this is their way into role-playing games? What if this is the first game that they DM? They've been playing for a while. This is incredibly difficult for me to manage as a cognitive load magic. All right. So let's hold off on the whining and let's go behind the magic here. So what we'll do is let's just like go through it, and I'll try to it's one of those things like doing laundry or dishes or vacuuming. I hate doing it, and I don't want you to help me, but I just want you to be here. You know, can you just sit here with me while I fold my clothes and sigh? I just want to go through how magic works in this game. And so this will partly be like, we'll learn together tutorial, but the other part of this is I'll probably complain a little bit about it. All right, let's just start from the top. There are 3 schools of magic in the game: animism, elementalism, mentalism. Then there's also general magic, which any magic user can use. If you're a spellcasting character, you pick one of these schools of magic at the start of the game, and you get it as a trained skill. And if we recall, if we go back here to, I think, page 25, these trained skills are derived. Okay, so if your attribute, say your intelligence, is a 10, your base chance right? You're going to roll a d20 and you got to roll under is 5 for it to like hit or whatever. If it's a trained skill, you double the base chance. So if your intelligence is 10 and your base chance is 5, but it's a trained skill, your base chance is 10. So whatever school you pick, you use your intelligence to figure out your base chance of that. You cannot, at the start of the game, you cannot cast magic outside of your specialty other than general magic, okay? Now, there is a heroic ability that you can do several times, which is magic talent, and you can learn a new school of magic, all right? And you can select that 3 times. And in fact, it sounds like they're already giving sort of a hint here that in future iterations, future editions, if you look right here, let me minimize this. It says, there are said to be more magic schools in the world of Dragonbane, even necromancy and other dark arts, but the 3 below are the only ones available in the core game. All right, so we'll probably get something in the future. All right, so you pick one of these, right? Animism, sort of a nature magic. Elementalism is wind, water, earth, fire. And then mentalism is, I think, pretty close to what might be called chi energy, channeling power through your body. And then general magic is some pretty general spells. All right. So in terms of spells, we'll get to those later in the chapter. You don't have skill levels in individual spells. Whenever you are doing a check, you roll against your base chance doubled because it's a trained skill in the school of magic, right? So you just use, if you're casting an animism spell, you're trained in animism, you roll against that. You cannot do spells in the other camps until you learn those types of magic. And to learn those, well, we'll get into it. Spells are divided into ranks. These have no mechanical effect, but indicate how complex and powerful they are. So basically, you start with rank 1 spells. I think they go up to 5. And usually 3, 4, and 5 spells, you usually need to like learn some other spells beforehand in order to cast them. So it's just basically a way that like over time, you can get more complex, more powerful spells. All right. Sorry, let me scroll down a bit here. So I was just reading that about rank. Prepared spells. Spells are complicated. The maximum number of spells you can hold prepared in your memory at the same time is equal to your base chance for intelligence. All right. So if your base chance is 5, you could have 5 spells in your head. Again, this is ridiculous to me. I'm very sorry if this is the system that you're comfortable with and you take this personally. But what in the world is the point of that? Like, to me, that for something that's not real, that seems absurd. You can have these spells prepared in your head to cast them. And then in some games, after you cast them, you got to prepare them again. So let me ask you this. If I cook a pizza and then I follow a recipe and I cook a pizza and then the pizza's done and I eat it, the next time I cook a pizza, do I have to learn the recipe again? Or can I be like, oh man, I cooked a pizza before. I know how to do that now. What is up with this? Why do we just accept this? Okay, you can hold prepared spells in your memory. When you've reached your limit and want to prepare another spell, you need to replace a spell. But of course, because that's how our brains work. You can only think of 4 things at a time. To prepare spells, you need to study them in a grimoire. This takes a shift of time. Now, remember, in Dragonbane, we have 3 divisions of time. We have a round, a stretch, and a shift. A round is 10 seconds. A stretch is 15 minutes, and a shift is 6 hours. So you got to sit there for 6 hours and study your spell homework. And you got to study them from a grimoire. And if you're a mage, you get a grimoire at the beginning of the game. It slithers towards you. So you do it during a shift rest. Everyone's hanging out. Mage says, hey guys, sorry, got to study. I got a midterm. I got to study spells we're going to use for the next fight. I have no clue who we're going to fight, but in a perfect world, you know, I'm strategizing. In the air, it feels like we're going to fight some giant wasps. So I don't know. I'm going to summon mosquito spray level 5. All right. You can only prepare spells that you have learned. Okay. So you learn these spells, you put them in your grimoire, and then you study them, you prepare them, they're in your head. Mark your prepared spells with an X on your character sheet. Now, I got to say here, I don't know what this means. Let me expand this a little bit. Mark them with an X on your character sheet. Let me find my character sheet here for a second. Sorry, I got to minimize this. Okay. Where am I marking these with an X? Let me see here. Okay, maybe I put them in secondary skills? Mark them with an X on your character sheet. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. I see. Okay, so over to the left here, abilities and spells. Let's see if I could highlight that. Yeah, over to the left. You're going to list your spells, and then you put an X next to the ones that you have prepared. Okay, that's fine. That makes sense. And then your prepared, your, like, if you were to learn elementalism, that was your school, you would write it in here in secondary skills. All right. I'll stop being a baby about that. All right, let's go on to the grimoire. Most mages have a grimoire, and newly created mages automatically get one. In the grimoire, you record all the spells that you know. And one of the treasures in the game is a grimoire. I'm surprised to see that it is only one. And you have to find, you can find these grimoires, and you can, learn other spells. Now, the DM could just say you found a grimoire. But if you're using the treasure system, out of what looks like 52 cards here, you have one grimoire, and you roll a d4. And the DM chooses or randomizes the spell. So once you have learned more spells that can be held prepared, your grimoire becomes crucial. In an emergency, you can cast spells directly from the grimoire, but it takes twice as long as normal. All right. So you're in battle, and you cast a spell as an action. Okay, if you have it prepared. You have these spells in your grimoire. You can learn the spell from your grimoire and put it in your head. And then if it's in your head and it's prepared, you studied, you can cast it as an action. But you only have a limit to how many spells you could have in your head. So your grimoire holds all your spells. And in an emergency, you can cast directly from the grimoire, but it takes twice as long. But this is also confusing because it says it takes twice as long. So in my mind, it's like, okay, you can cast your spell directly from the grimoire, but it takes twice as long as normal. To me, that says that if it takes one round, one action to cast a spell, then casting a spell from your grimoire takes 2 rounds. But that's not really what it says down below. So we'll keep talking about this. Lost grimoire. Oh, sorry. Grimoires from other mages are also an effective way to learn new spells should you not have a teacher. Read more about learning new magic on page 61. Okay. So you got these grimoires. It's basically like somebody's spiral notebook full of spells. And you can find some. Maybe you can kill a mage and take it. Hopefully like an evil mage, not just like some dude at an inn. Or you can find a teacher. And that takes a long time. But we'll talk about that on page 61. I have to do this. I have to do this, folks. I have to be fair-minded here. Okay? And for myself, I have to be true to myself. You can think I have no idea what I'm talking about right now. That's fine. A lost grimoire. If you lose your grimoire, you cannot prepare the spells you kept in it. To be able to use the unprepared spells again, you first need to go get a new grimoire and record these spells in it. I bet that takes some time. To record spells in a grimoire, I think it takes a shift to record each spell from your memory. Now, we have magic tricks. These are basically cantrips, right? These are like these minor harmless spells. They're like a lot of illusion spells, and they cost 1 willpower. Now, hold on a minute. What did I just say? They cost 1 willpower. You're trying to tell me that in addition to learning these spells, keeping them in a grimoire, preparing them, I also have to spend willpower. Wow. Okay. The limit on prepared spells above does not apply to magic tricks. Right. Your magic tricks are always prepared. All magic tricks require a gesture to be cast. As a newly created mage, you may select 3 rank 1 spells and 3 magic tricks to start the game with. They must be chosen from your school of magic or general magic. You also get a grimoire where all of your spells are recorded. Casting spells. To cast a spell, you must spend willpower points and roll against your skill level in the relevant school. Any school can be used to cast general spells. So if you're using general spells and you're trained in animism, just use animism to roll against. If the roll succeeds, the spell has the intended effect as per its description. Otherwise, it has no effect. Swing and a miss. You can push the roll if this optional rule is used. If you remember in the push rolls in Dragonbane, you can roll again. And you have to accept whatever outcome the dice is, and then whatever rating that character rating that you use, intelligence, strength, whatever stat, that then you're like exhausted or overexerted, and so you have like a condition in that until you rest, and you have to roll with a bane, like a disadvantage. All right, so you can push it. Magic tricks succeed automatically. You don't got to roll for them. Again, like hand trips, they cost 1 willpower. But the magic tricks, as you imagine, they're not going to be very useful. They're going to be light a torch or something. 0 willpower. Some spells drain willpower from another person. Hitting 0 willpower has no other effect than prohibiting the use of abilities that require willpower. Okay? So now before we had rank... And that had no mechanic. It just says how complex the spell is. But we also have power level. The power level of a spell indicates how much power you charge it with. The power level ranges from 1 to 3. Casting a spell costs 2 willpower per power level. In other words, normal spells always cost at least 2 willpower, and magic tricks always cost 1. Some spells do not use power level. These always cost 2. Okay, what this means is, and we'll see this as we look at the descriptions of spells. Let me find one that has like pretty clear cut. Okay, heal wound. Sorry, am I too close to the mic here? All right, heal wound. This is a rank 2 spell. You have to say a word, and you can't whisper it. It takes an action to cast. Has a range, duration. I like this. All this information. You heal a living creature for 2d8 HP and 1 non-permanent severe injury. You can use the spell on yourself. For each power level beyond the first, the spell heals an additional d8. Okay, so if I want to just heal for 2d8, I do a power level 1, and I have to spend 2 willpower. If I want to heal for 2d8 plus d8, I do a power level 2, and I spend 4 willpower. Power level 3, 6 willpower. And I add a d8 each time. Okay. I think you can only go up to 3. Now here, well, let's do power from the body. If you have just 1 or 0 willpower left, you can draw power from your body if need be, but this is harmful, potentially even lethal. Roll a die of your choice, d4 to d20, before casting the spell. The result indicates how many willpower you gain and might use straight away, but you also take the same amount of damage. Willpower not immediately used are lost, so it's like an airport gift certificate. And so you're basically wagering. You're like, all right, I'm going to roll a d10, and I rolled, well, I'm going to roll a d8. I rolled a 4. I get 4 willpower, but I lose 4 HP. If you really want to take a walk on the wild side, right, you roll a d20. Oh, that's nice. I rolled a dragon. And then you get 20 willpower, but you lose 20 HP. So you're probably dead. So that's pretty cool. You draw that from your body. The damage is applied after the spell is cast. I think that's cool too. So you can kind of like go out with style. If you're dead, you can still roll a dramatic, huge spell. Power from the body cannot be used for healing spells. That makes sense. That's like, yeah, you're withdrawing from the same bank that you're depositing into. All right, this next one is a head scratcher, folks. Metal and magic. Metal has an anti-magical effect, which means that you cannot use magic if you're wearing metal armor or have a metal weapon at hand. The implications of this are staggering, especially for solo play. I can't have metal. So if I'm a spellcaster, a mage, I can't have a sword, I can't have armor. I don't think I could abide by that for solo play if I were to use a mage. I think that would be impossible. I'd be too weak, too exposed. And if I run out of willpower, what do I have? A club? A strongly worded letter? I don't know. And this even includes partially metal items such as axes, spears, studded leather, and arrows. I just couldn't abide by that. And I wonder what motivated this choice. Was it to balance? It had to be to balance because they're probably like magic users are too OP. We need to power them down, and so they can't use this stuff. But there should be something about like I don't know, like to me, an axe, I mean, you're holding a metal, a wooden log, and there's metal at the end of it. Why not just do like swords or something? I don't know. Items in your inventory don't count, which proves that makes no sense, right? You could have a bucket of metal shards. I'm sorry if that was a gross sound of me drinking that coffee. Okay. Requirements. To cast a spell, you must fulfill one or more of the requirements which are specified in the description of each spell. Word. The spell is activated with a chant or power word. It cannot be a whisper. Gesture. Activated by making a specific hand movement. Focus. It's activated with an item held in your hand, such as a wand, crystal ball, or amulet. Ingredient. The spell is activated using a certain ingredient which is consumed in the process. Okay, so now to cast a spell, let's just review. To cast a spell, I have to learn it. I have to write it in my grimoire. I have to read it and prepare it. I have to spend willpower. I cannot wear armor or a sword. And I have to do, sometimes I have to have an ingredient or an item or a piece of equipment. Some spells have multiple requirements. You cannot cast a spell unless all of its requirements are fulfilled. At this point, I ask, do you want to be a mage? And if you're a DM, man, I'm thinking about this with terror. I have a mage in my group. This is why we're learning this together. Okay, casting time. So this is where we're going to learn where it says if it's from the grimoire, we go double time. Unless otherwise stated, casting a spell always counts as an action. However, there are reaction spells which are performed outside your own turn. Unlike other reactions in combat, such as parrying or dodging, reaction spells do not replace your regular action in the round. So yeah, this is, if you recall, if you parry or dodge, basically that fast tracks your initiative. You use up your attack at that time and you don't do it again. These are also like spells of opportunity, but they don't take up your turn. They have like a special note on them if there's a reaction. This means that you can cast as many of them as you want if you have enough willpower. There are also rituals which take a stretch of time or even a shift to perform. So you're in battle and you say, all right, most people's actions, they take 10 seconds, but you're like, all right, everyone, let's just call a timeout. Give me 6 hours so that I can prepare a spell. Grimoire. Casting an unprepared spell from your grimoire takes twice as long, which means that you must spend an extra round, stretch, or shift on preparations. Make the roll when the spell is completed. Reaction spells cannot be cast from your grimoire. This makes no sense to me, because if you have a spell that takes more than a round to prepare, okay, if you have a spell that takes a round to prepare, I can understand this, because you'll say, I don't have this spell prepared, but I really want to use fire bolt, and so I'll just use 2 rounds of time. If you have to use a stretch, which is 15 minutes, or a shift, which is 6 hours, if it takes a shift to prepare the spell and then to have it prepared, and a shift to cast it, what difference is that from casting a spell directly from your grimoire? That's the exact same thing. So this is why this option doesn't really make sense to me. And please write in the comments if this makes sense. But to cast an unprepared spell takes twice as long. To me, that's just like 6 versus half a dozen. It's like, okay, you don't have the spell prepared. You can cast it from your grimoire. I suppose if it's a spell that you have to... No, it doesn't make sense. If it takes a round to prepare, then it takes 2 rounds. Fine. Which it would have anyways if you prepared it. Reaction spells cannot be cast from your grimoire. Maybe I'm wrong. Please let me know. And please know that I'll be very receptive. Okay? Each spell has a maximum range. Unlike ranged weapons, they can't be used outside of their specified range. With ranged weapons in this game, you can use them outside of their range, but I think you roll with a Bane. We have some AoE. All right. We have a sphere. These are just sort of the cone. And if you play 5e or anything, you'll know that different spells take different shapes, different ranges. Magic items. Magic items may contain 1 or more spells that can be activated even by non-mages. Unless stated otherwise, it takes a successful roll against languages or any school of magic to identify the spells and be able to use them. Willpower points. Using spells inside a magic item still costs willpower. Some magic items can store willpower, which you can use instead of your own. Cool. So you pick up a scroll, you shake it out, it's got 6 quarters in it and a couple willpower. And then you sit there, you roll against language, and you're able to read it, and then you can use a spell. Okay. Duration. Each spell specifies the duration of its effect. It could be instant. The effect occurs instantly and has no lasting effect. Round, lasts until your turn in the next round. Stretch, lasts for 1 stretch at a time. Shift, lasts until the end of the current shift. Concentration, the effect ceases if you perform another action, take damage, or fail a willpower roll, resisting fear. If you're interrupted by a sound, you must make a willpower roll, not an action, to maintain your concentration. And you know, to be fair, not all spells are combat spells, right? So some of these could very well make sense. If you have a spell that like creates a camping space for everybody, that's going to take a shift. That's fine. Failure, Dragon and Demons. If the roll for casting a spell fails, the spell has no effect, but you still spend your willpower. You are free to describe how the failure manifests itself in the story as long as it has no mechanical effect. Okay. Now, the mechanical effects, I guess, are for when you roll a demon, you get a magical mishap, which is it's on this page. You roll a d20 and you get some bad news. That's from rolling a demon. If you roll a dragon when you cast a spell, it means your target must roll a dragon to resist, parry, or dodge a spell, and you may choose one of the following effects. Damage or range of the spell is doubled. The spell does not cost any willpower. You can immediately cast another spell, but get a Bane on the roll. My question is, why doesn't it work like other skills work in this game, that if I roll a 20 on it, I could check it, and then I can roll against it and try to increase my skill in that school of magic? But you can't do that because we're going to learn how you have to learn magic. And again, maybe I'm a noob right now. Maybe you're like, Malone, this is standard practice. But this is bananas to me. This is so needless. You can learn new spells from a teacher or a grimoire. You must have a skill level in the relevant school of magic or any school of magic for general spells. Prerequisites. Some spells have a prerequisite that must be met in order to learn them. It is usually a school of magic or knowing another spell. This is not uncommon. If you look at like even heroic abilities or skills, some skills that'll say you can't learn this skill unless you have this other one. Teachers. The easiest but most often expensive way to learn a spell is from a teacher who already knows it. The lesson takes 1 shift, but you cannot activate the new spell until the end of the game session. You must then use an advancement mark for the school to learn the new spell instead of trying to increase your skill level in the school. This is bananas to me. So I got to find a teacher. I got to spend a shift there, which potentially means if I'm playing with a party, I'll catch up with you guys later. I'm going to, sit here at the mystical dojo, And then it takes a shift. And then at the end, I can't activate it until the end of the game session. And to activate it, I have to use an advancement mark, meaning I have to roll against my base level in that school of magic and exceed that in order to learn the spell. Okay, not to increase my rating in that school, to learn the spell. And if I don't, now it's with a boon, okay, granted. On success, you learn the spell. Otherwise, you do not. If you don't learn it, you got to study you got to study from this teacher again and do that process again. Who would want to do this? Who would want to be a mage? It's like working a second job. All right. If you're lucky, you can find spells in other mages' grimoires. Just kind of look over their shoulder. You can learn them on your own. This works the same way as with a teacher, but you roll against languages instead of intelligence without the boon, right? So this is like, can I read this grimoire? Magic tricks are easier to learn than real spells. It takes one stretch to learn a new trick from a teacher or grimoire. No advancement mark or roll is required. Fine. You can learn additional schools of magic by first acquiring the heroic ability magic talent and then studying under a teacher with a skill level in the school for at least a week. For at least a week. At the end of the week, at the end of the week, you make a roll against intelligence. On a success, you get your base chance as the skill level in the school. On failure, you may try again after another week of study. Even non-mages can learn magic this way. What? Compare this to like, you have reached level 10. Congratulations. You can now cast Fireball. Or even, skill tree. Select which of these spells you want. I have to find a teacher in that school of magic and then sit with them for a week. I don't care if this is in other games. I think it's ridiculous. I think it is so ridiculous. It's so convoluted that I don't understand what's the appeal of this. Is the appeal of this of like, if you're a barbarian in a game and you want to learn like a spin attack, do you have to go find a barbarian and be like, hey, show me how to do a spin attack for a week? Okay, so now we get in the spell list and we can get an idea here. This is all the spells. We got general magic. These magic tricks suck, right? Fetch, flick. Yeah, I have to study for a week. What did you learn? I learned flick. You give an object or a creature within 10 meters a flick. This is literally the Facebook poking. It inflicts 1 point of damage and can, for example, shatter glass. Not bad. Yeah, you could light something up. You can open or close. You can repair clothes. Hey, welcome back from Magic College. How was your first semester? You can call me the Enchanter now. Oh, okay, Enchanter. What did you learn? I learned a little spell called Repair Clothes. Sense magic. You can sense whether the place you are in or an item you are holding is affected by magic. Costs 1 willpower to say that this glowing thing is magic. All right, so let's get into the general magic. Dispel, rank 1, any school. Got to do a word and a gesture. And again, the point of this is, in role-playing, it's not like me as the player, I have to say the word and gesture. You have to say the word. So if you're trying to be stealthy, that breaks your stealth. Okay? And if your mouth is covered or you can't speak, you can't do it. Same as gesture. If your hands are tied up, if you're a prisoner, if you're injured, you can't do the gesture, you can't do the spell. All right? You cancel an ongoing spell of lower or equal power level. This spell can also be used to end other magical effects if the adventurer or GM allows it. Fine. Protector, magic shield, magic seal, transfer, permanence, charge, charge. You transfer your willpower to an inanimate object of your choice, which acts as a battery. Each power level lets you transfer up to 10 willpower. Anyone in contact with the object can then use its willpower instead of their own. After one shift of time, the charged willpower dissipates unless combined with permanence. Okay. I know what I sound like right now. And if you're someone who doesn't agree with me, you're probably like disgusted by me right now, because I'm just being I'm being so petty, and I'm creating a bunch of straw man arguments, but just hear me out. As a DM, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a story. And yes, I need to know several possible outcomes. And with that knowledge, occasionally something completely different happens. But I'm trying to craft a story, for the most part, with my players in mind, right? If my players are level 2, I'm not going to drop them into a battle with Emerald Weapon from Final Fantasy VII that has 600,000 HP, right? I'm not going to do that. Unless they do some outrageous stunts and go so far off the path, right? Or I'm doing a funnel or something. But I'm trying to consider how to create a story that all of them can interact with. And one of the problems I have with, like, it's the same thing with 5e, and it's the same thing with this. How the hell am I supposed to keep all this stuff in my head? How am I, and how is the player supposed, you know, even when I'm playing Baldur's Gate, like on Xbox, I have all these prepared spells. I never use them. And I never use them in clutch moments because it's too much cognitive load to deal with. Now, if this spell was like, you cast it and roots come up and attack an enemy, or roots form a ladder and you can climb it, fine. That makes sense to me. That's intuitive sense. But instead I got to go, okay, I prepared ensnaring roots. The victim's ensnared by roots and branches and unable to move. Breaking free requires an evade roll with a boon at power level 1, normally at power level 2, and with a bane at power level 3. Each attempt counts as an action in combat. Only one attempt is allowed per round. The others can help. The spell does not work on monsters. The victim is ensnared by roots and branches. 1. Unable to move. 2. Breaking free requires an evade roll. 3. At different power levels, it's either a boon, normal, or bane. 4. Each attempt counts as an action in combat. 5. Only one attempt is allowed per round. 6. Others can help. 7. The spell does not work on monsters. 8. Prerequisite gesture. 9. Ingredient. I need branches or roots nearby. 10. Casting time is an action. 11. I love. I don't know why or what is up with Mac cameras, but when you go like a peace sign, it shoots balloons. I don't know how to turn that off. I love that. And also, if you go like this, I think it does fireworks, right? Yeah, there we go. There we go. It only took me 6 hours to prepare those spells. We have 12 things we have to remember about this one spell. And yes, we can look it up, but every time I have to look something up, it's pulling people out of the immersion. That's one spell, has 12 pieces of information. Some of these spells have way more information than that. Way more. That's one school. Okay, Fireball. Great. Makes sense. Gust of Wind. Stone Shield. Whirlwind. These make sense. Tidal Wave. Firestorm. Gnome. I love that. I can cast Gnome. Just some dude I can hang out with. All right. All I'm saying here is that there's a hell of a lot to think about. And as a solo player, maybe that's not as much of a problem. Maybe I can refer to this every time. I can look at the menu of things. I can prepare it. But there's also this thing of like, I want to go. I want to do stuff, right? Like, you ever play Rainbow Six? I had that for like the first PlayStation. And every time you did like a infiltration, you had to like set up your team for an hour. And at a certain point, I was like, I just want to play. Can I just play? Right? And this is one of my problems with preparing skills is like, preparing spells, especially if you only have one mage in your group, this person is going to constantly feel like they are like having to like reload the spell barrel. Are these spells kind of cool? Yeah, I think some of them are really cool. It's pretty flight, teleport. So, you know, I don't want to throw this away completely. Maybe using it more often is going to make more sense to me. Part of me is so stubborn right now that I almost want to make a mage as a character and just get like amazing at this and be like the foremost YouTube channel of magic in Dragonbane. I really do think that. And I mean, any character can learn a school of magic, but the mage just starts with one. Again, the key word here, the key phrase is cognitive load. This is just a tremendous cognitive load every time. And when it comes down to it, I have no elegant argument. I have no stack of syllogisms to prove why my opinion is best. It comes down to one simple thing. I don't feel like it. And I've always felt that way. When it comes to magic casters and TTRPGs, I've always been like, man, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like having to do all of this stuff to get a casting of a spell and then it's gone until I learn it again. That's the part that kills me. Is I cast this spell, I miss. Say I miss. And I've spent 6 hours preparing it. That's ridiculous to me. That's not fun to me. What do I know? All right, that's the bad news. The good news is in 3 days, I am going to be getting the new bestiary, which we've already taken a look through this. But in addition to the new bestiary, I'm also getting like 100 more of these. Now, if you've stuck out this video as long as you have, I want to tell you about something very fun. And you haven't unsubscribed. As you know, I was using these very cool tabletop tokens to set up my playing board on previous solo plays. And they're very cool. They're flat, so this is very good with like the top-down thing that I have. All kinds of things. These tabletop tokens, there's like a couple different sets of them. I really like them. The only thing I like more than them is my girlfriend, because she saw how much I like them. And so for Christmas, got me the Masters Relics. And, oops, excuse me, I hope that wasn't extremely loud. I hit the mic. These are tons of these set pieces. They're all reversible. They all have 2 different options. Well, most of them do. We got roads, we got bridges, we got doors, we got everything we need. So I'm going to have a hell of a lot of fun using these to construct the settings that we will use. I'm so fired up right now about the whole magic thing. I feel like revved up about it. I also feel like scared because I think some of you are gonna put me in my place. But instead of fearing it, let's lean into it. Give me your opinion on magic. And for one of you, whoever has the best opinion on magic and TTRPGs in the comments, I also have a sealed Masters Relics because I love these so much that I wanted to share them with you as well. I've never done anything like this before, but go ahead in the comments, write your opinion on magic in role-playing games. It could be that you disagree with me. It could be that you agree with me. It could be that I have it all wrong. It could be I agree with you, but you have to be nice. Anyone who's mean cannot win. And the winner will figure out a way to get in touch with you, and I'll ship this to you. How cool is that? And you can have the Masters Relics yourself, 300 plus pieces. So that's all I have to say on Magic for now. I'll probably wake up in a cold sweat tonight and have a lot more. Forget about some other point that I made. But thank you for sitting for my Behind the Magic edition of Dragonbane. And I think when I get the bestiary, the new bestiary on the 3 days from now, probably a little sooner, we'll celebrate by getting back into the quest. I do have to say that I've just been thinking a lot about Deepfall Breach, and again, I really obviously like this rule set, and I think we can do a couple more of the missions on here, but I just think more and more I'm just thinking about this big old world we have here, which I can't find the map of. We have this big old world to explore, and let's explore it. Let's get out there. Why limit the solo play to just kind of doing like Grand Theft Auto type one-off missions in Deepfall Breach? Let's use those rules. Let's get out there. Here it is, this beautiful map. I might get another one of these just so I can give it to people. Let's get out of here. Let's hit the road. Look at, we've got all this to explore, right? So this is Deepfall right here, this little crevasse. Let me see if I can, that's Deepfall. Right by the outskirts, we can go to town, Iron Forest. Let's have some fun. I'm going to take another look, too, at this DM board. If you recall, when I first got this, I was pretty down on it. I was saying that it doesn't have the right information on it. But I don't know. I took a look at it again, and I'm like, maybe this stuff would kind of be good, especially as a GM, like generating things, giving me some advice on action. I don't know if it has much about Magic on here. Let's take a look. I bet my viewer count drops to about 2 by this point. I don't think it has anything about Magic. Even the GM... Oh, cast spell. In most cases, casting a spell counts as an action. This includes magic tricks. Some spells are reaction, do not require. For more on Magic, see Chapter 5. Even the GM screen, like, noped out of that. All right. That's it. Thank you for joining me and just helping me learn Magic in this. You know, to be honest, I do feel like I understand it a little bit better now. Maybe I need to use it to fully understand the elegance of it. And so if you have a sour taste in your mouth about what I've said and feeling like I'm a hater right now, please know that I'm open to it. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to get good at it. Again, I'm committed to the system. And I hope as soon as we get that new bestiary and those new pieces, we can have some all new adventures. So see you in a few days. And again, nice comment below with your opinion. The Masters Relics can be yours. We'll figure out a way to ship it as long as you don't live on like Svalbard. Even if you live on Svalbard, I could probably get it to you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.